anything beyond his knowledge. And in the moments that that does happen, it has a very intense effect, such as when Midge drives down, sees that Madeline has been inside Scotty's apartment, and we see what the effect of this on Midge is. So I guess the first question for you is, we're really bonded with him. We see through his eyes. It's Jimmy Stewart, who we're accustomed as stars who like him, right? We see Mr. Smith that goes to Washington. At what point in the film does it start to go so wrong, where you're with him and then you're not really with him as much anymore? I don't know if anyone has any insight. I can pass this around. Want to say loud in the back?
I think the moment that really struck it for me was, I mean, obviously a lot of it was really like strength over, we kind of didn't want to side with it anymore. But I think for me what really switched for me was when we see the flashback from Judy's point of view, revealing like what was actually going on, like the idea that he was being played the whole movie, so he's kind of played the whole movie, and it's like kind of reversing now, reversing the perspective, I guess. It's like I only did want to side with the movie because I knew that how it set people up with the idea of Marge and how she wanted to recreate it.
It's also kind of a terrifying idea because it feels like her character goes along with it just because she has to, because now Jimmy Stewart is the director of the film symbolically. So when it always seems like she can't protest, Jimmy says it can't matter to you, and she seems to go along with it anyway, that's part, I think, of the nightmare sort of landscape of this film, that she doesn't have any say, she just has to do it in those moments, which doesn't make logical sense in real life, or this is a realistic film, obviously. Other things about this character. Yeah.
When he was talking about the fact that, that we find out we're duped at that point, I always feel like there was just a producer or the studio said, you're going to have to explain it to people. So let's have Judy have a flashback. Because I don't think Hitchcock would put that in. I think he would leave, we'd see the back of her head, we'd go to the next scene, and we wouldn't know anything until she put the necklace on. And all the rest of it gets explained anyway while they're going up the tower stairs, so there's no need. I always feel like that's just when, studios think we're stupid and we can't figure it out.
Right. I mean, what you're saying is one of the classic critiques of the film. But historically, Hitchcock did want to do that moment in the screenplay. And the rationale that he talked about was just wanting to really shift the perspective. So because he wanted, otherwise the story becomes more of a whodunit in a way, which is how the novel works, actually. So your viewpoint is completely valid. At the time, looking at the thriller, people say you give away the film like 25 minutes before the end.
Yeah.
I think, though, the deeper things of the film that make it more than just a thriller is we need to feel what it feels like to Judy, to side with her, to see what the fallout of this control over her is. So that's another way of looking at it, that in that moment we've seen through Jimmy Stewart's eyes the entire time. Hitchcock knows as a director and stylist, we can't suddenly start seeing through Judy's eyes necessarily. So he creates that very clever device where she just turns and looks us straight into the camera. And it's a terrifying moment to me, at least, because she's a powerful close-up in terms of lighting that's in that scene, and you really know something very strange is happening in that moment, as you really kind of takes over the film in that moment.
But you know before that, because you know when he lingers on the back of her head, before she turns around.
Can I look here?
He keeps the camera there a split second too long, and then you know.
Oh, for sure.
But an interesting thing that, I swear to God, I see this movie every week. And I keep looking at it over and over again, and at first I thought, she really is a great actress because there's not a shadow that when she opens that door and sees him, you think that something would pass on the eye. But the more I look at it, maybe I'm projecting this, but I do see the slightest little flicker of, oh my God, oh my God. But I think that's very interesting. The first 100 viewings, I thought that didn't make sense.
Right.
That a woman like that, after what she's been through, wouldn't have a flip. I mean, it was a very profound experience. She was part of the death plot of another woman. And it did fall in love with him. I think she fell in love with him when she said it wasn't supposed to be this way. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. She's gone.
So I think Hitchcock likes to have it both ways. Like, he doesn't always care, like, about the strict logic. Because even, as you're well familiar, I've seen this so many times, when she's in the McKittrick Hotel and just vanishes, you could expect that they're trying to come up with a logical explanation for that. I don't think Hitchcock cares. It's just, this is what's needed about the plot. And the thrill there is that, and I think in that moment too, because I agree with you, I was watching that scene where Judy doesn't let on at all with that door, and it breaks reality, but I think for the plot in that moment, I'm not sure he cares. I think it's just this is part of making a film or a genre.
Is there a possibility that she spots him on the street when he spots her?
That's totally ambiguous, yeah, that could be possible.
Which then wins another meaning on going upstairs and opening the window. She's not just letting some air into the room.
She's inviting him.
She's letting him in.
And of course, like, it's all the repeated things. Like, we get to see the same side angles when she comes back in. So even though she's a brunette, it looks very different. She's dressed in green, which is Madeline color. And then also opening the windows is exactly what she does in the McKittrick Hotel. So in a way, she's also already repeating some of these Madeline things. So a reason the film is considered a great film is because it's so stylistically under control and it's so complicated, and it's almost like Hitchcock is reaching for so much that a film like this could never fully make sense because he reached further than a human being should try to reach. Other comments? Yes?
Just briefly, going off the idea of what you're saying about how Hitchcock doesn't stress over whether they make too much sense in the script. I think, I don't know, in my personal opinion, one of the reasons I've always loved his films, why I think the difference between that and modern day thrillers, I feel like he never took these films too seriously, but there was a certain level of, well, he took them seriously, but like he didn't let, there was a certain tone of understanding of what he was trying to go for in the depth where he didn't let things get too serious or too, like there's a certain moment in the film where I just feel like he knows, like when they get hit by the water and the waves are rushing up on the,
right,
there's
melodrama,
a certain understanding he had, where like, I don't know, in my opinion, some filmmakers were like totally trying to scrap something like that.
I mean, he saw himself as an entertainer, definitely, and he was out to thrill the audience. So in moments like that, he knows when it could be a little melodramatic, and it's just fine. I mean, to me, it's the most horrifying cut in this movie. It's been much talked about, so I know you're familiar with it. But in terms of one of the most audacious cuts in cinema history, people often think about the 2001, like the wind of bone up in the air, and then it turns, it cuts like 20,000 years later or whatever to the spaceship in outer space. And the cut in this one is where it goes from him and her in the car when he dragged her out of the water to him in the apartment, where you realize that he stripped her completely nude, hung out everything, like her dress, her panties, her bra. I mean, you couldn't show those things at the time, but the quantity of clothing lets you know that's what has happened here. And that she's in bed and just her eyes flicking down to realize she's naked. But then on the second viewing, it's not that she realizes she's naked, it's that as Judy, she was acting this part and was paid by Gavin Ellinger to put up with the abuse of this strange man bringing her home with him and stripping her naked while she was still awake and cognizant of what was happening. And so on the second viewing, that's the moment that you really wonder, like, it's very diseased sort of thing. That's where this film, I think, it just feels so troubled on many levels. That's where it reaches for more than Psycho, or certainly more than North by Northwest, both of which are great films. Or even Rear Window, which is also has that same kind of sick, voyeuristic quality to it, obviously, and also about filmmaking, where Jimmy Stewart sends Grace Kelly into the distance, and he becomes the film director in that moment. She enters into the cinema screen, placing himself in danger. There's something that's a little bit half about Rear Window and a little too charming, where this film is more, I think, a little more deep, or I guess diseased in a way, where you feel like he really was channeling something within himself emotionally to be able to pull this one off.
But Notorious also, I mean,
oh, yeah.
Sent it to that incredible danger.
Oh, yeah.
And selling yourself to, for a country.
Well, sure. I mean, like, Vertigo still, and that's why Hitchcock was considered an auteur, like among the French New Wave directors. Why did they value him so much? Is they didn't look at thriller as being a despised, shallow genre. They celebrated the cinematic technique and the depth within thrillers and B movies and crime movies and mystery movies. So they saw the resonance, or not the resonance, but the repeated themes in action through Notorious to this one. Or also, what's the one with the psychiatrist with Gregory Peck? Spellbound is another, it's kind of an inversion of this one because you feel like she's trying to cure him in that film at great cost to herself. So it just feels like the gender roles are reversed in that one. And it felt like a kind of a trial run for this one. Other reactions or comments on any topic related to Gershman?
Make one comment about Midge. Another reason, Midge is not supposed to be attracted to Jimmy Stewart, she wears eyeglasses.
Right.
Throughout Hitchcock. The eyeglasses on a woman, she's not supposed to be attracted.
Yeah, the painting. You should feel so bad for Midge in this movie. And when she leaves the narrative, it's the saddest moment. Like, and once you've seen the film a number of times, you know she's gone for the whole movie. You miss her at that point because you know after the moment when she recedes into darkness, no further good thing had a chance of happening in this movie. All right. Thank you. Well, if there's nothing else, I know we've been sitting here with no air conditioning. We've had many chatting away on forever. Yes.
Kim Novak's still alive?
Yeah, she is. Kim Novak's still alive. She's a great defender of Hitchcock, and she was as disgusted as I was that the Harriman score was used in the artist. Like, she made news for that one. Because some things are sacrosanct. In the Vertigo score, I love Ivana Vicious as a director. That's just one of the Academy Award for direction, right, for the artist. But I told his earlier films were better, like OSS 117, Lost in Rio. The artist just feels like a very nostalgic film in Hollywood, where he used to do the same type of thrillers that Hitchcock did. So I don't know, it's probably still free on like Netflix with streaming, but the OSS 117 has all this kind of deeper social meaning in the guise of like a spy spoof, and it's kind of a profound film in some ways. But obviously many people love the artist. He's a fun filmmaker.
Yeah, just another comment on Kim Novak and the Kim Novak-Jimmy Stewart relationship. It's actually funny. The first film that I was exposed to the two of them in was The Book and Candle, which was one of my favorites as a child. And it's funny that it's reversed because in that film, she is controlling him in a mystical manner. And it's a wonderful, wonderful old film with Jack Lemmon. And something interesting that I'd like to put out to the Philadelphia Film Society members who are here, and anyone who has seen Ruby Sparks recently, which is a recent release in which you have a gentleman who is controlling this woman, an ideal woman, and creating what he wants of her, and then the denigration that happens to the relationship, and kind of some of the parallels that you kind of get between the two films. I see nodding heads, so I'm glad that some people are agreeing with me.
Yep.
So it's a great film, check it out.
Anyone else?
One thing, a real basic thing about, the use of mirrors in this film. The more times you see it, the more mirrors you begin to see in this. There's the whole notion of duplicity and double lives. And first time I saw it, I didn't know it was quite as many as I noticed.
Although he has restraint in that moment at the end, like where he could do the classic surf shot of seeing her in the mirror, like, oh, she's a different woman, she's a double or whatever with the necklace, and he doesn't do it. I'm so happy.
That's the one place he'll
And while the film is called slow, obviously, I think it is slow, but for a very great purpose, which is that, solid filmmakers know when to use restraint as much as when they know when to use flamboyance. So the idea of Jimmy Stewart's life, like as Scotty, they call him Jimmy Stewart, because I feel like the film is partly about Jimmy Stewart in some ways, and the way that Eyes Wide Shut is about Tom Cruise in many ways. But early on, we need to feel kind of the boredom of his life and just the slowness, and you need slow tease of him chasing her. So sometimes today, people see it as not as fast cut as some thriller, but I think all those very slow moments are crucial. Even if it can get a little frustrating maybe at times, but it has like such a dramatic payoff because you're really there with him. And then when things start to happen, you feel like you've gone through the weight of all the time spent on screen.
Deliberate.
Yeah.
Deliberate.
I remember when I saw it as a kid the first time, it was probably like I was 11 or 12, and I was always disappointed that she wasn't possessed. I wanted her to be possessed.
You're like Vertigo.
So there's that whole moment when you're coming out of the fog almost in the bedroom, you know, quite a visual moment.
Yeah, and it's also just, you know, with the green fog in that moment that what's happening is not right. Like, he definitely broadcast that we're supposed to feel ill over it. And I mean, at the same time, there's the hotel empire. So you get this idea of, like, the empire of men or men's control over women, and their power and ability to kind of perpetrate these sort of things. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.